Hello, everyone, and welcome to a conversation with the candidate. My name is Jason Mon, and today I will be having a conversation with Chelsea Oliver, who happens to be the Pennsylvania State Democratic nominee, State House Democratic nominee for the 4th District. How are you today, Chelsea?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, I couldn't be better. It's cold outside. I'm talking politics with you. This is a good day.
Yeah.
This is a great day. So Chelsea, let's start this out probably the way you started every other conversation for the last however many months. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in a small town, a rural girl for sure. My entire family has lived in Western Pennsylvania for generations, as have I, mostly in small towns. My dad owns his own construction company. So as you know, as a small business owner in a small town with a young daughter, I got away with absolutely nothing in that small town. But it was a great upbringing. And my mom worked at the local Christian college. So that was how my family was able to afford sending my brother and I to college. And then I went on to get my master's degree as well, and have been living in Corey and giving back to my community since 2014. Have been involved with quite a few nonprofits, was formerly on city council, and work as, small business owner myself in marketing and public relations, helping small businesses grow and communities to thrive.
Busy lady, I like it. So again, a question you've been asked probably more times than the first one is why, what made you run for this position and why are you still doing it? I mean, what drives you for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really want to make government more approachable. So during the pandemic, I was working at the credit union and realized, I could have a shift in my career. Financial institutions were taken care of. They didn't need as much help, but small businesses really did. And I was getting asked a lot more for that help. So shift in my career into that space so that I could really help others. And then at the same time, I was on council. I was appointed to council during COVID and recognized how unclear it was, or how people didn't quite understand what was happening on the other side of the table. So I really wanted to mesh those things together, help people and help them understand government more and be, a leader of service, truly. So that's why I'm running.
Rock on. Now, what are your main priorities in running? I mean, do you have a top 3, 5, 10? I mean, I'm sure there's 100 reasons. What are those top ones?
So the top 3 really is making sure that rural Erie County is taken care of, that we are no longer left behind in Harrisburg. We are the furthest away, and as we know, rural places are more likely to get less services provided to them than bigger cities. So to make sure Erie County is not being left behind. So the top 3 are a strong, thriving local economy, making sure that we have healthy communities, and high-speed internet, because everyone needs internet out here. So.
Yes, I can attest to the internet issue. I had kids that were in school during COVID, and I live in the middle of no man's land, and because of that, our access to internet is very, very limited. What are your, what's a quick plan of attack to help solve that issue?
Yeah, so we really need to make sure that companies are thinking about our people. This is a people over profit part. So it's not profitable to run fiber out on, a mile stretch of land if there's only 2 houses there. I understand that. But this is at the point where it's a utility now. We need to make sure that those companies recognize that it is needed for people in more than just watching Netflix. It's jobs, it's schooling, it's, making sure farmers have the same kind of level playing field as other businesses. So everyone needs internet. We need to make sure that companies are really driving that forward.
Absolutely, especially in today's economy. I mean, a lot of people working from home, a lot of people having access to new technologies that didn't used to be there 10, 15 years ago when this problem first was talked about. But talking about, people working from home, a lot of small businesses made transitions during COVID. A lot of big businesses made transitions during COVID. You talked about making business easier in our county. Business always seems to be, when we talk about business, we talk about Erie, we talk about the big city. But you're trying to represent an area which is a little over half of the county, most of which is rural. So what are you bringing to the table to help businesses in those areas? Yeah,
I mean, I am a small business owner. I was raised by a small business. So I understand those needs in how we are different than big business and still need representation. So I want to be able to bring that to the table and make sure that, people think locally first, especially in rural places. If you're buying local, that dollar is coming right back into your community. So making sure that it's affordable for businesses, run by people like us, to stay open, to make sure that our communities are taken care of in that way.
All right. And then you had mentioned healthy community. What do you mean by that? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are rural healthcare centers closing. We don't have access as easily as bigger cities. And a lot of folks can't make it to a bigger city to get that kind of healthcare. So making sure that rural clinics are not being closed down, that they are, expanding, if anything, here in rural Erie County, and that people have that access. And also, I think that everybody in some way has been touched by the opiate epidemic, and it's something that we can really tackle and make sure that it's less about the shame of that and more about bringing them into the community and making them, healthy people in our lives. So.
Absolutely. That only helps them plus the community out.
Right.
So, Chelsea, I guess a lot of people might not know this. Some people watching this may know this, is that, you and I are what would be called opposite ends of the political spectrum.
Sure.
You're a Democrat and I'm a Republican. Okay. And a lot of people might be asking themselves, why in the world would Jason, who, as you know, I was a former runner for this spot that you're running for. I ran in the Republican primary contest. So why am I here talking to you? And I think there's two reasons for that. The first, and obviously most important one, is you asked me. Yeah. And that means a lot. And that leads into the second reason I did this is people go, Jason, are you helping her? I don't know if I'm helping her. I don't know what you want to say to that. What I'm saying is, though, I'm willing to respect someone and talk to somebody who's willing to talk to someone who doesn't believe everything that they believe. Yeah. And hearing your three things that you just talked about, I agree with every single one of those. And I think that's what people forget about this conversation, is that though we're on opposite sides, there's a lot of middle ground that we are on top of each other with, Right. And that's what I appreciate about you asking me to do this. So let me just tie that into a quick question about something that's bothered me as a Republican, okay? I'll ask you some Republican side questions now. Right. Is one thing that's annoyed me heavily this political season is the lack of debating. Yeah. By not just local candidates, but statewide candidates. Right. Right. What do you feel about that? I guess the next question is: are you having a debate?
Yes. So I have had these hard conversations my entire life. My entire family, except for my brother and I, are Republican. So I knew going into this, it was going to be tough conversations to have, and I was prepared and ready to have them. I think without having a debate, you don't actually give your constituents the opportunity to see both of you comparatively. So you can say whatever you want on your own campaign, but unless you're standing next to your person and actually debating them on the issues and having to think quickly, you're not giving a full representation to the people you're going to serve. So at the moment, no, we are not scheduled for a debate, but I would love to have one.
I hope there is one. I think it's important. I, like you, when I went through the primary process, we had several, maybe not debates, but forums where we were all able to talk about, because even Republicans, even though we all are supposed to think the same, just like all you Democrats are supposed to think the same, there's also there's different roads that we all travel to get to at the end of our thoughts. So being that you're talking to a Republican, let me throw some Republican things at you. How do you feel about the guns? And I know it's broad. Give me your broad view on guns.
Yeah, so my broad view on guns is that I was raised around them. My dad was a big hunter growing up, so we were always, around that atmosphere. I've taken some tactical training. I know that's like a secret. Nobody knows. Now you do. But yeah, so I'm a very different Democrat when it comes to guns. I understand that it's very much in our culture in rural places, and I would never vote on a bill that would take away rights from law-abiding gun owners. At the same time, I think there are conversations to be had where that can be true, and we can also make our communities, our schools, our churches, our everything safer. So without taking away rights.
Okay, that's a fair answer. Big topic this election right now, crime. I mean, it's an overwhelming issue. Again, we live in a rural area where crime isn't as intense as it is sometimes in the cities.
Sure.
But you're going to be dealing with that at a state level with laws that affect rural and a city. What's your feeling on the crime issue right now?
Well, I think there are, again, ways that we can make sure that people who don't, frankly, deserve to be back on the streets back there. But when people are brought up with small, petty crimes, small drug crimes, I think is what you're alluding to. Yeah, those folks deserve a second chance. I really believe in doing that. Those folks were probably put into jails because they were, given little options. So again, back to the opiate epidemic, we need to take away shame from those kind of things and bring them into the community. That builds them as a person, that builds our communities, that builds our economy. All of those things can be a positive.
All right, that's great. Taxes.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about tax. Every year, every politician says, we're going to lower the taxes, we're going to help out the taxes. Listen, we realize taxes are a part of our society. That's what it is. As a Republican, I say, I don't have a problem paying taxes. I just don't want to pay all of my money to the government. And then when I give that money to the government, I want it to be spent wisely. Sure. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so your council and my council never raised taxes, so we can hang out on that record together. Yes. But I think there are other ways to bring revenue into the state that we haven't tapped into yet. And until we exhaust all those options, we shouldn't be tapping into the pockets of hardworking Pennsylvanians.
Let me just ask a side question. I wasn't planning on asking you, but you just said something. Do you believe that just because something brings revenue into a state, whatever that might be, okay, do you think that that's the only reason you should legalize an act? Obviously, I'm talking about marijuana right now. I don't care about your feelings on the subject. What I care about is that a reason to legalize something?
I don't think it's the only reason to legalize, no. I think it is a very helpful one, and it's a blaringly obvious one when there are 2 states bordering Pennsylvania, specifically Erie County, that are legalized or are already moving in that direction.
And I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm glad to hear you say that that's not the only reason, because I, as a Republican, and a lot of my Republican brethren would say, that's not the only reason to do something.
Yes,
you know what
absolutely.
I mean? So just a quick one before we're coming to the end of our time.
All right,
Just a real quick thing. Inflation is something we hear a lot about right now, And contrary to popular belief, I'm a Republican who understands that a government can't fix everything, okay? You know what I mean? There is, so many of my Republican friends say, we need to do this, but then we'll complain that government's too involved with stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm not that way. I'm a less government kind of guy. Do you think that there's a lot that government can do about inflation right now, or no?
I think we can put the pressure on companies who are price gouging. So that's where government can play a role, but I don't know that there's really, we're not the only country that's dealing with it either. Yeah. So, but that is where state legislatures can really put the pressure on and make sure that companies aren't taking advantage of a situation.
Oh, beautiful. Well, Chelsea, time goes so fast when we're talking. So I'm going to give you the last word, but before I do that, I just want to thank Cam up here in Erie for allowing us to have this opportunity and hosting us to have a quick conversation. Right. Wish we had more time. Yeah. I'd like to thank you, obviously, for, first of all, even though we oppose on different issues, for standing up for what you believe in and going out there and be willing to talk about that. And third, I'd like to thank everybody for taking a few moments to watch and learn about Chelsea. So with that, Chelsea, last word is yours.
Thank you. That's very kind. Yes, so I am Chelsea Oliver. I'm running for your vote as state representative and would love to earn your vote by November 8th. As a Democrat, I knew that this was an uphill battle to get into, and I think that the work ethic that I have shown throughout this campaign should show how hard I am willing to work as your state representative moving forward. I believe in rural Erie County. I believe in what we can build here, and if you believe in that as well, then I humbly ask for your vote on or by November 8th.
Beautiful. Thanks again, Chelsea.
Thank
it's been
you.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks.